So today's class is, I'm going to try and do some sort of full body yin classes so that you can mix and match depending on what your need may be on any particular day. So last week I did a class based on the spine, and today I wanted to do some hip work, but there's so many target areas in the hips that I wanted to break them down a little bit. So we'll call this hip 1, and today we are targeting our hip flexors, our quads and our hamstrings. So we're going to do a couple of poses for each of the 3 target areas, just that it gives you a little bit of variation, a little bit of something to play with. If you don't want to do a pose that where you've stretched or stressed the same target area already, feel free to sit it out. It's more just to give you a general idea, and once you become familiar with the class, then maybe you can mix and match as you need. Prop wise, I kind of have my whole armory with me. Cushions, straps, blocks, smaller cushions, but feel free to replace any of these. You can use a scarf or a belt or a kikoi instead of a strap. If you have a small cushion, use small cushions, but if you have your bolster, feel free to use that too. And if you don't have a block at home, just feel free to grab a couple of books, stick them together and find the right height and width that can suit you. If anything at all doesn't feel right during the practice, please feel free to come out of it, to vary it if you know how to, play around to try and find something that works for you. Listen to your body. This is your practice after all. And if something usually doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. So yeah, become aware of the body, become aware of what it's telling you throughout, and enjoy. So we're going to start with our dragon pose, targeting our hip flexors first. So we're going to do hip flexors, quads, hamstrings, hip flexors, quads, hamstrings. So starting with our dragon pose. I'm going to grab a small cushion for this. We're going to come onto all fours, and I'm going to place my right knee onto the cushion. But if you have a blanket or a scarf or something a little bit softer, or maybe just on the mat, is absolutely fine. My left foot is going to come in between my hands, and then just adjust the knee where you need to. Where you should be feeling the stress, the stretch, is in your right hip flexor, the front of the hip, maybe going down a little bit to the front of the thigh. I find that staying up is usually much better to try and find that stress, keeping the torso up, because it allows for that little extra weight and a little extra gravity to really sort of push you down. That front foot, that left foot and that left leg does not need to be straight down the midline at all. In fact, if anything, I usually find it inhibits me from getting a proper stretch. But if I start moving it out to the left, I feel like there's a little more space for me to be able to sink down and really feel that stress in the target area. The foot can be turned out, can be turned in, it can be on the side if that feels good. I like to have a block or a pile of books that I can rest my hand on. And notice that my body turns a little bit to the side. I find that helps me, at least, achieve the stress I need. So play around with the position of your torso a little bit. We're going to stay here 3 minutes. Once you've found that perfect pose for you today, you start to become a little still and a little softer, and you start to relax into it. This is quite an active, quite a dynamic pose, because there's a certain level of effort involved in staying up here. But try and see if you can make it softer. If you can effort a little bit less. You can just let yourself go in that distraction of efforting. For the ones of you who come to my classes, who used to come to my classes, you'll have heard me say this story a lot, but when I first started Yin and I was told to get into this pose, the idea of holding it for 3 to 5 minutes seemed like hell, until I kept practicing it, and eventually I softened with it. I gave in to the pose. I stopped resisting, I stopped resenting it, I stopped questioning it, and I just sort of gave in. And it kind of became my best friend of a pose in a way. Now I can almost fall asleep here. So see if you can let go of any hardness or tightness. Just giving yourself into the pose. This is hard on your wrists. Feel free to come down onto your elbows. Or maybe prop your elbows up onto a cushion so that you're a little bit higher. But notice, if you do that, how that sensation might change. You might no longer feel it in that right hip flexor. I start feeling it in my hamstrings instead a little bit. Neither are wrong, they're just different, targeting different areas. Less than a minute to go. Try and keep your awareness in that target area. Notice how it feels, how it changes over the time that we marinate in the pose. Taking one last big inhale in. Slow exhale out. Really gently making your way out of the pose, taking your time, exiting slowly. I like to just come to sit on my heels as a rebound for this pose, but feel free to lie down on your front or on your back. Just take a moment to notice the effects. See if you can notice a difference between the two sides of the hips. Slowly we start to deepen the breath, and we start to bring some movement. If you're sitting on your heels, you start turning the spine a little bit, one side, a little bit the other. Rolling shoulders, one way and the other. And we start to set ourselves up for the other side. So this time keeping the left knee, if you're with me, on your cushion or your blanket or on your mat, and bringing that right foot forward. Know that this side is going to feel different, and so the pose is going to vary. It's not going to look the same for you on one side as it does the other, and that's absolutely okay. So take those moments to experiment, to play around, to bring that awareness inside the body so that you can see what works for you on this side. Whether it's keeping the foot in, moving it out to the side, twisting the torso slightly to one side. Play around with that height of the torso. And then whenever you're ready, you start to relax and let go. Notice if there's anywhere where you're efforting unnecessarily, or where you can soften some of that efforting. Notice what thoughts, what emotions arise, without getting caught up in them and getting frustrated that you're experiencing them. Just notice them and then just come back to your body and the relaxation of the pose, the letting go, staying aware in the present moment in the body with the breath. Less than a minute to go. Taking one last big inhale in, and slow exhale out. Taking your time to exit the pose slowly. And again, find your ideal rebound pose. Whether it's sitting or it's lying down, just try and allow the body to be effortless, so that you can really tune in to those sensations. Could be sensations of tingling, of pins and needles, of numbness. It could be a temperature, the body part could feel hot or cold. Maybe it moves or it stays in the same spot. Notice what happens physically in the body after releasing a pose. Gently we start to bring the awareness back. We start to bring movement to our fingers, our toes. We're doing a few circles with our wrists, maybe stretching up. Then we're going to make our way onto our belly. Lying down onto our belly, and we're going to prop ourselves up onto our elbows. We're going to go into a variation of Sphinx that targets our quads, which is at the front of our thighs. I like to use a block or a cushion and a strap for this. But as I take you through, feel free to experiment yourself. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to start with the left leg, and we're just going to see if you can grab hold of it with your hand. If you can't, you can use the strap. And we want to pull the foot towards us, towards the buttocks, until we find a good stress, a good sensation, that first resistance that you feel on the front of the thigh. Maybe just holding it with your hand, or just maybe holding it with the strap. I've looped the strap around, and so I can put it over my left shoulder and sort of sits there like a handbag, and then it means I don't quite have to effort as much as I would otherwise. If you're not feeling much in this, you're always welcome to come up a little bit more, but this might create more pressure in the lower back. So if that's not something that feels good for you, what I like to do is place a block, or it could be a cushion, underneath my knee so that it lifts the quad slightly off of the mat. And the trick is to find the right height for you. Remember that the wider the legs, the least amount of pressure you're going to feel in that lower back. So play around. They don't have to be together. They can be wider apart. Adjust the strap as you need, tightening or loosening it until you find the perfect pose that stresses the front of the thigh just the right amount. And yes, sometimes it takes a while to get in it. And that's okay. But eventually, you start to soften and let go. We'll be here 3 minutes. Doing quite short poses, at least for me, for the people that are used to my classes. You know, I'm a fan of holding for at least 5 minutes. So we're just going through them. If at any point you feel like you want to stay longer in a certain pose because it's just what you needed today and it feels good, please do so. Pause the video, rejoin later. Notice, scan, see if you've tightened or engaged the muscles anywhere, and if you have, try to soften and let them go, allowing the body to be heavy, relaxed. You probably noticed that my hip is actually raised from the ground. That's all right. It doesn't cause any discomfort or distress. taking one last big inhale in. And slow exhale out. Really gently releasing the pose. And just allowing yourself a moment of rebound, lying on the belly. Your head can be resting on your hands or down to the side. And just take a moment to feel. If you notice any fragility or vulnerability in the spine, know that it's normal and it's temporary. It is part of the effects of any poses that target the quads have some element of back bend in it. That's how we pull on those tissues, on those muscles, on that fascia of the quads. So take your time, relax yourself in the lower back and the hips and the shoulders, and just feel those sensations. Gently we start to wake the body up, moving fingers and toes. And stretch our arms overhead. Be moving on the head from side to side. And slowly we come to that other side. Remember to play around with the different variations. Notice what works on this side that might not have worked on the other side. But so basically bringing this time the right foot closer to the buttocks. Looking for that first sign of tightness, of resistance in that front right thigh. Use any props that you might need. Your straps, your blocks, your bolsters. And then we settle in for the 3 minutes. A pose does not need to look the same one side to the other when we're doing these asymmetrical poses. So don't worry if it doesn't. Soften, relax, let go. Allow this to be your little moment of zen. Little mini meditation as we allow ourselves to just hang in the moment. Notice what thoughts come up to distract you, to take you away from what's happening in the body, with the breath. And whatever thoughts those are, usually it's going to be your past or your present. Not your present, sorry, your future. Those are the things we remember, the past, things that have happened. We think about things that are yet to happen, all these plans, all these what ifs, especially in these pretty uncertain times. Don't be hard on yourself if you do find yourself getting distracted. Put a smile on your face and try and bring that awareness back to the body. Taking one last big inhale in. And slow exhale out. And really gently releasing the pose. Taking your time. Exiting slowly is really important. But notice how your body just doesn't really want to move quick after a yin pose. Find your rebound. Allow yourself to let go and feel. Slowly we start coming back and bring some movement. We can stretch our arms overhead, bring them next to our chest and push ourselves back slowly into a child's pose. It can feel really good after some deep back bends in yin. Coming to sit up on your heels and then just releasing the legs underneath you. We're going to come into our hamstring stretch. This is our half butterfly. So keeping your left leg out, straight in front of you, more or less. Your right leg, your foot either comes on the inside. And if this doesn't feel comfortable and you feel like you're kind of unstable, like you're sort of this, play around with flipping that foot behind you into a sort of half saddle or half frog pose. Notice if that makes you more stable. It doesn't to me. This side pushes me a little bit to the left. So on this side, I much prefer to have it in my half butterfly. We're going to come to fold forwards over our straight leg to find that stretch at the back of the thigh. You might actually even feel this in the back of the calves. I certainly tend to. One of the things that I would urge you to play around with is that torso does not have to be directly on top of that leg. You might find a better stretch if you open up sort of between the two legs. Some people actually get a better stretch coming out to the left side. Play around. Notice where you feel it. And once you've found somewhere that feels good, you're getting that sort of nice, juicy stretch at that back of that left thigh. And then you start to settle in. for the next 3 minutes. Allow that left leg to be relaxed. Let the foot roll in or out. I notice with a lot of students when I'm teaching classes that this is the kind of pose where people want to start grabbing their foot and pushing themselves further into the pose. It doesn't really work for yin that. It's the minute you start engaging and pulling and forcing yourself into a pose, it stops having the desired effects on the connective tissues, on your nervous system, on your mind, on your breath. If you find yourself sweating and efforting in a yin pose, you're probably activating and engaging somewhere where you shouldn't be. So if you find yourself doing that, try to let go. Maybe turn the palms of the hands up so that you offer your efforting up, letting it go. If you need a prop to support you under the torso or under the head, sometimes a block can feel really nice, supporting the forehead. Maybe some books, maybe a cushion. Allow yourself to be soft here. Likelihood is you'll feel this in your back too, maybe a little bit on your lower back, even across the upper back if you're rounding a lot, and that's okay. If you feel like you need to bend your left knee, that's also fine. You might get a better stretch that way. Maybe place a bolster or a cushion underneath the knee to support it so you don't have to effort to hold it there. Remember to soften once you have found that perfect spot. And if you move and increase or decrease the pose or change the pose in any way during the minutes that you hold it, remember to go through that process again of letting go, disengaging. Taking one last big inhale in and slow exhale out. And using the strength in your arms, your hands, just slowly walk you back up. I like to just hang here for a short rebound to notice the difference between the two sides. Slowly we can start to transition to the other side. So I'm keeping the right leg straight, bringing our left foot to inside the thigh. Now for instance on this side, I feel unstable sitting like this. I much prefer to flip my foot behind into my half frog or half saddle kind of position. It's not because I'm weird, it's just the way my bones are shaped. We are not built different side to side. We're not built different from one to the other. This is why the experimentation and all these variations that you get in my classes That's why they're important, so you find the perfect shape for the shape of your bones. You start to fold over that right leg. Again, notice where the torso wants to be. Notice if it's different from the other side. It probably is. And then you start to let go. Try to relax as you scan through the body. Anything that's tensing up, tightening up. Try and keep yourself anchored in this moment without drifting off. And if you notice that you have, again, we practice coming back, we practice relaxing a little further, noticing the things that come up, observing them without getting too caught up in them. You know, it's so natural for the mind to wander. It's what it wants to do. It's what it's programmed to do. And we have so many different thoughts and things going on in our lives. But it's only natural that when we're still for a little bit, especially after that first sign of discomfort starts to go, as the tissues start softening and becoming more fluid, and that initial discomfort is no longer there, and your mind cleverly starts going, oh my God, did I turn the gas off? How much was that thing that I bought the other day? Why did they say this? Why did I say this? What am I going to have for dinner? It's normal. Taking one last big inhale in and slow exhale out. And really slowly walking yourself out with your hands and your arms. And just coming to lie on your back for your rebound. Taking your time, don't rush getting into your rebound, don't rush getting out of the pose. And then just let go. Our rebounds are not only physical, but they can be emotional, mental. So notice if certain feeling comes up, whether it's good or bad. Notice if certain thoughts come up, whether they are good or bad. Maybe you get a new idea, new insight into things. So now that we've done a pose for each of our 3 target areas. We're going to go over them again and find other poses for them. So back to our hip flexors. And for this you'll need a block, maybe a pile of books, maybe even a really thick, hard bolster could also do the trick. We're going to plant the soles of our feet onto the mat. And we're going to lift from our hips, knowing that a block has 3 settings. So play around with the different heights and find what works for you. There's small, medium, large. We want to put the block underneath our sacrum, that triangular sort of plate bone that sits at the end of our vertebrae, sort of by our butt crack. And then we want to start to extend the legs forwards. Maybe the arms come back, maybe not. Maybe they prefer to have them out on the side. But again, what you're looking for is that sign of resistance, that tightness here at the front of the hips. If you feel this a lot in your back, you can again play around with that width of the feet. I find the closer they are together, the more locked I feel in my lower back. But if I widen my feet, I can relax and soften into this much more. Find the right height for you today. We'll be here 3 minutes. Once you've found your pontoon pose for today, however that looks like, you start to settle in, and you start to let go. Notice if you're tensing up anywhere in the hips, in the belly, and if you are, take a big inhale in and a long exhale out, and just letting it go. If you enjoy sighing, if you find that helps you release, go ahead. An interesting, one of my teachers and I, Joe Barnett and I, we discussed this. Often when you're taught Yin, and by many teachers, they suggest inhaling in deep and sighing it out through the mouth. When I started learning yoga, one of my teachers here in Nairobi with Vinaya, breath was always done through the nose, in through the nose, out through the nose. It doesn't mean that you can't take deep exhales, but it was just done through the nose. And so whenever I used the cue was to sigh it out, it used to make me feel really uncomfortable. And so I used to never really do it. And then one day Joe and I talked about this, and I mentioned how I just don't like breathing out through my mouth. It's just not something that works for me. And we had this discussion of course, it's just like a pose, a method of breathing, this is any pranayam or any breathing exercises, isn't going to work for everyone. That trick is to become aware of what works for you, knowing that whatever it is that works for you today is not going to work forever either. So don't be attached to it. When the day comes that one of your favorite things no longer serves you, no longer has a purpose in your life because it's not doing anything for you, be prepared to let it go and open new doors for something else. Taking one last big inhale in. Slow exhale out. come out of the pose exactly as we came in, planting those feet onto the mat and lifting from the hips slowly, just enough to slide that prop out from underneath you, and then to come down just really slowly, one vertebra at a time. Allow yourself to let go. Extend the legs forwards, the arms can come to the side or they can rest on the belly. And take a moment to rebound. Gently we can start to bring our awareness back to the breath, and we bring movement to fingers and toes, and we can stretch our arms overhead and point and flex the feet. Grab your strap if it's anywhere near you, because as we come into our next pose, we're going to bring our left knee into the chest, and we're coming into a hamstring stretch now. This is one of my favorite poses. I love leg and strap or hammock. Name is not particularly important. But start with your strap sort of at the highest, longest setting. I'm just putting a knot in mind because it has a tendency to actually undo itself. It's not the best of straps. Now we want to place the strap on the ball of the foot, making sure that that buckle is sort of on the sides, because then we're going to come and bring the strap on the back of our heads, just above the ears, maybe sort of resting on the bump at the back of the head. See where it's comfortable, where it's stable. And again, we're looking for that stress at the back of our thigh here. The leg can be straight, but it can also be bent. Both can work. That opposite leg, your leather leg, can either diminish or increase the stretch. Try bending it, planting the sole of the foot. Maybe that works better. Maybe it doesn't. That left leg wants to come out a little bit to the side, that's absolutely fine. Allow that foot to rotate also if it wants. But whenever you found somewhere where you feel that resistance and you're comfortable while still feeling that stress, that strain in the back of the thigh, then you settle down. You let go. You release, you soften. If you notice that your leg dances around a lot, mine tends to. Had several explanations as to why this would be, but what I think makes also sense for me is that what it is, it's that the opposite muscle, it's my quad muscle wanting to bring my leg down. So it's the antagonistic, the opposite muscle. It's usually not painful, so if you don't mind it, if it's not causing you any great discomfort, just let it happen. Soften to it, put a smile on your face when it does happen. I used to think that the more I did yin, the better it was getting, and the less frequent it was becoming, the less jumpy it was, until one day I got into this pose and it really started wobbling again. I think it's just some days are good, some days are bad. Not necessarily even bad, just sometimes it's worth more and sometimes it's less. And that's okay too. under a minute to go. Taking one last big inhale in. Slow exhale out. And really gently just releasing the straps in the back of the head. And just allowing that foot to join the other on the mat. Take a moment to notice the difference I find with this pose specifically. You really notice the difference between the two sides. Find that one leg feels, my left leg, the one we just worked on, feels so much longer and softer, flatter, like a pancake. And it's a really beautiful way of noticing what a yin practice does to the body. Gently we start to wake the body up. Yawn if you feel like it. Stretch, move, maybe side to side, stretching over the front body. And this time we bring our right knee to the chest. Know that the length of the strap that worked for you on one side might not work for you on this side, so play around. If your strap that you have is too short, there is always the option to hold on to it with your hand. It does require a little more effort, but it's still a great way of stretching out that back of the thigh. But if you're coming into your hammock pose, putting the strap on the ball of the foot, making sure that buckle is to the side and doesn't get caught up in your hair, and then bringing the strap to just above the ears and the back of the head, finding a suitable place where it's stable and it's supporting your head properly and not slipping around. Remember to play around with that left leg, whether you prefer it to have it bent or straight out. Try to have the leg out a little bit, in. Once found what works for you, you start to settle into the pose. Check and scan for any signs of engagement or tightening in the muscles, and if there is, just try to soften and relax them. your thoughts are distracted, you try to come back to that body awareness, to that breath awareness. Start to relax yourself a little further. Less than a minute to go. Taking one last big inhale in and slow exhale out. And so gently moving the strap from the back of the head and slowly allowing that leg to join the other on the mat. Take a moment. Feel the effects, feel the rebound, feel any sensations, any emotions, any thoughts that might arise. Slowly we start to wake the body up. Stretch our arms overhead and point and flex the feet. Bringing the knees to the chest. Feel free to sway a little from side to side. And then either rolling up and down to come back up to seated, or just coming to rest on your side and pushing yourself up. We're going to come into our last pose. This is our saddle pose. So last pose for our quads. And we've kind of been building up, opening our hip flexors, opening our quads in the last few poses. Should help us come into what can be quite a challenging pose for many people. There's so many red flags and so many things I'd like you to be aware of as we come into this. So the first decision is whether you like to sit on your heels or sit between your heels. This all has to do with how much internal rotation you have between your femur and your hip bone, how much rotation your femur has in relation to your hip socket. Some people have loads, some people have not. I have more on one side than I do on the other one. So depending on where you prefer to sit, the other place that might start to be a source of challenge is maybe your ankles. And if anyone finds it really uncomfortable to sit on your heels because it presses too much on your ankles and you feel a lot of strain, I have a small cushion here, but even just a small blanket rolled up or a small towel rolled up to pad the ankle or even the foot might help here. Second thing to consider is how your knees feel in this pose. If this is really hurting you, go back to our second pose, and that might be a little less strain on the knees while still targeting the quads. However, what you can do for a saddle pose is sit on a block, and that might take a little bit of the pressure off of your knees. Now, once you've figured that out for yourself, the next thing to consider is how far down you want to come with the torso. So you can start just by placing maybe a block and a cushion behind you or a bolster behind you, but just start to walk down on your hands. Now maybe here you're already feeling a lot of pressure on the front of the thighs, and that's perfect. So let's hang out here. Notice that again, like in a few of the poses that I mentioned earlier, the distance between your legs is going to make a big difference with how much you feel it in the lower back. Like I was saying, to stretch out the quads, we have to come into a sort of back bend, but we can regulate how intense that back bend is. So notice maybe here is enough for you today. Maybe you want to come all the way down onto your support, onto your cushion or your bolster or your block. Maybe you want to come down a little bit further. Maybe you want to keep that block there because it can be kind of nice to open up the chest. I kind of love getting into this pose, but maybe you want to go down all the way, and that's absolutely fine too. Now, if your knees lift up, like you can see my right knee is lifting up, that's absolutely okay. If it's not causing you any great pain or discomfort, then let it lift up. I kind of like it because then it's already moving down. I notice the sort of change in my tissues as I go by because that knee starts slowly dropping down more and more. Find that perfect pose for you today. And then relax and soften into it. By having the block on my spine, it takes away a little bit from the stretch in the quads. So now I'm trying to lift my pelvis up by putting a cushion. If I had another block, it'd be perfect, or maybe a pile of books, just to lift up so that I also get the stretch in the target area I'm wanting to work on, as well as the lovely chest opener. Taking one last big inhale in and slow exhale out. So This is a really tricky pose to get out of. And I was laughing because I just recalled, again, some of my teachers, Paul and Susie, really, whenever we're in this pose, at the end they sort of joke with, and if you come out of it, good luck. But because it really can be quite tricky. But I find just tucking the chin to the chest and then slowly wedging my elbows underneath so that I can lift up, taking my time, and just engaging those muscles in the core, removing the props, and just coming to find your final rebound, your shavasana. Allow the body to be comfortable. Have the feet however wide apart you need them to be. Allow them to roll in or out. Allow the hips to be heavy. Soften the belly. Soften the chest. Your hands too, allow those to be pointing whichever way they want to be. I've been to so many classes where they tell you the palms need to point up to the sky. But you know what? My palms just naturally don't do that, and it requires quite a lot of effort for me to have my palms facing up. So just like the feet, allow them, the palms of your hand to point maybe down, maybe up, maybe to the side. Relax the shoulders. Allow there to be a little length at the back of the neck. Soften the jaw. Create space in the mouth. Soften the area around the eyes. And just allow yourself this moment to completely let go. If you would like to take an extra long, juicy shavasana, please feel free to do so. Again, that difference between what people need, what people enjoy, what people like. We're just too unique to all want the same thing. If you're with me, you can start to bring movement back to our fingers and toes. We stretch our arms overhead, pointing, flexing the feet. Hug the knees to the chest. Feel free to sway a little side to side to massage the lower back. Come to rest on any side you prefer. And then slowly bring yourself back up to a comfortable seated position, sitting cross-legged or on your heels. But however you're sitting, try to sit tall. Relax the shoulders down. Feel like the crown of the head reaches up. And again, relax the jaw, relax the eyes. And with deep gratitude, we bring our hands to our heart. good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Namaskar. Thank you for joining me. I hope you all have an amazing day, an amazing evening, an amazing morning, and catch you next time. Thank you.